Hi everyone, Sue Matsuki with another Sue's Muse. Today I'm talking to an amazing lady, Eden Castell. Casteel.
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 Yes.
No.
That's why, July 4th is Bastille Day. August 5th is Castile Day.
That's right. The way it should be. Now, some of you know Eden. Some of you have seen her wonderful MAC-nominated show about Madeline Kahn. When is it coming back? Let's just talk quickly about that.
July 31st, it'll be back at Don't Tell Mama. July 31st, August 8th, September 9th, and October 16th.
Fantastic. I have a beautiful graphic for this. Look at that. Ooh, wait a minute. Let me share that with you. And so you can write these dates down. But as always, I will have this picture on the bottom of this interview so you can refer to these dates and everything. So Madeline and me, why Madeline Kahn? What was it about Madeline that spoke to you about her? Were you always a lifetime fan? I mean, I know I was. Everything she did was brilliant. But talk to me a little bit about why Madeline.
She was, I didn't realize she was kind of the DNA of what I wanted to do. And I talk about it in the show that I first saw her actually in a Michelob commercial. And I was a teenager and I thought she was so funny and so talented. And in 30 seconds, I thought, oh, that's great. Sopranos can do that. I'd been classically trained up until that point, was heading for a career in opera, but I really loved her. And the other one, the other redhead, Beverly Sills. So it was the two of them that I thought, oh, Sopranos get to be funny. And then everybody tried to not let me be funny. So
Yeah.
but it really, Madeline Kahn was the beginning of that. And I always wanted to combine kind of classical singing and humor and comedy. And I didn't realize just what a hat trick it is to get to do that.
Let's talk a little bit about type because from the classical background, looking the way you look, you're ingenue looking, you're beautiful. I am, not ingenue looking. I'm more the second banana type thing, but it must be frustrating to be typed to a point where you can't express all the other aspects of how you want to sing. You want to be funny. What was that like in terms of your auditioning process? Did you ever like fight for a role that, maybe you weren't the right type for?
That I wasn't even allowed to try for those. And
Really?
and they didn't really exist. I mean, I went to Cincinnati for opera school, and as an undergrad, you do a lot of chorus type things. But occasionally, I would get a small role or a one off or something, and I would try to bring some humor to it. And everybody thought, oh, that's really funny. Now get back to the serious stuff. I
Isn't
got that
that
a
what's the
lot.
beauty? That's the beauty of cabaret, though, right? You don't have to fit any kind of type. It's a huge umbrella. How did you gravitate towards cabaret? Now, this was your debut show in New York, but you had been singing, obviously, and you've been performing for your whole life. But tell me, what about cabaret drew you to us? Was it just that you could be who you wanted to be, or?
That is absolutely the attraction. I'd been looking, and I had done a couple of cabarets even earlier in my career. They weren't cabarets, but they were, right? They were really funny recitals. I guess that's what I would call them. But I did start playing around with a different kind of voices and really trying to tell a story throughout it. And I felt like I was flying blind because I didn't know really about a cabaret at all at that point. I did one in 2010 called I'm the Queen and You're Not. It's actually a Fred Barton song.
Yes.
And I reached out to him for it, but I was basing it on the character of the Queen of the Night. So it was a performance piece.
Mhm.
And I was imagining the Queen of the Night from Mozart's Magic Flute doing a cabaret. So I opened with the Queen of the Night song. And I had my three ladies and everything, but then I turned her into basically singing at a bar. And I had a wonderful pianist who played cabaret style, and I told this story about her. So it was a bit of a character, kind of like David Sabella with
Yeah.
Amanda Reckon with. But I loved the response and I loved the freedom and the flexibility of it. And I thought, oh, that's great. I got to do that. I'll probably have to go back to opera now. But then about 5 years later, another opportunity presented itself. Somebody just saw something in me and said, would you like to try doing a cabaret show? It was a woman named Ida Zecco who reached out to
Oh,
me.
Ida, I know Ida well. Yeah,
Yeah,
but from P-Town. She's amazing. I actually, her Christmas album is like my car album. Whenever I go up to my family, I feel like I have Ida in the car with me. It's one of the best Christmas albums ever.
me
Oh,
too.
fantastic. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. So Ida reached out and said, do a show?
She did. She literally said that. She said, I have a monthly, spot here and I'd like to have different people. And she had seen something of me online. And she said, I just think that you can do this. Have you ever done it before? And I said, well, kind of. And I told her about that thing. And she said, that counts. So put something together. So I walked in with a bunch of songs, and Jim Rice, who's the pianist there, helped me put it together into a show and gave me a lot of pointers. It
Mhm.
all happened very quickly. And I got on stage and I had such a good time. But again, I thought, oh, I probably won't get asked to do this again, but how fun this was. And then during lockdowns, I actually found the St. Louis Cabaret Conference.
Yes.
And I found out through a jazz friend who had been through it. And I started asking about it. And people said, oh, yeah, we'd have a really good time there. And I thought, well, the worst thing they can do is say, we don't want you. So I made an audition video, turned it in, and I got to do it. And I was one of 8 singers in the summer of 2021. And our coaches were Jeff Harner and Christine Andreas and Karen Mason and Faith Prince.
Can't get better than that. Yeah.
It was great. And I realized that each week as we went on, I thought, oh, this is really where I should
Now,
be.
did I read that Faith is directing your show?
She is. And so we met online through that conference. And every Saturday we would get together like for 3 hours and just sing for each other. So, and we'd have a different coach each Saturday. So Faith was there for several of them and she heard me sing and she said, Cincinnati. She said, oh, I went to Cincinnati as well. Let's talk about it. And we developed a friendship. And then I finally got up the courage to ask her if she would direct me in a show. And that's how
you really like working with her?
I really did.
Good.
She understood. And I know she's about to do her own conference in New York pretty soon.
Yeah, the 92nd Street Y, Michael Lane Kirk is producing. They're producing a show. So go look up their website. She very well worth doing if you want to consider a great masterclass. So just saying.
It really is. Absolutely. And from what I've learned from her is how important it is to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And she stressed that to me over and over again, and how important it is to be really yourself. And I've never been given that chance, really. I think I've been trying to do it, but she really kind of insisted on it. And every time I would write another draft of the show, she would say, go back and fix this, this, and this. And it was always about being really honest and true. And then she brought in Rod Ferguson as the co-writer. And he's also a MAC Award winner and a wonderful writer. And so the two of them together really worked on me. Mm-hmm. It took us about 6 to 9 months, I think, to actually put the con artists together. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful to them. What they taught me revolutionized not just this show, but just my performing and my outlook on performing in general.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're a member of NATS. We met actually at the NATS conference with David Sabella a couple years ago. And I remember we chatted up at the little restaurant place downstairs. As an educator, NATS is the National Association of Teachers of Singers, by the way, if anybody doesn't know what NATS is. As an educator, how do you feel when you see a light bulb go off over one of the heads of your students when they finally get what that lyric connection to vocal to performance thing, when that happens? How does that feel as an educator?
I want to scream with joy.
Whoopee!
Right? And I often do.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back on the videos and you can see a lot of this. Right. Because we're cheering them on, right? And we really want them to get it. And I love it when that happens. And now I find I'm looking for it all the time.
Yeah. Once someone has achieved that goal, then it's kind of hard to keep them from trying to keep striving to raise their own personal bar higher and higher and higher. Now, I heard that you produce, like in your local church, you produce like little shows and showcases and stuff like that. How's that going?
It's really fun. It's so much work. I love it.
It is. Right? It's a lot of work.
You ought to know.
Yeah.
So, and you're one of my Northern stars for that. So I love producing. And I'm a music minister at a church in New England, and they have a beautiful hall that wasn't being used very much. So we've started to program different concerts in there. And sometimes they relate to the church and sometimes they're just fun for the community. But I love any excuse to bring people together, right? And bring people who might not know each other together. So I can bring in groups that have some kind of a spiritual emphasis for the betterment of our church, but for the community. And I can bring in groups that just need a place to perform because we're a welcoming, open, and affirming church. Mm-hmm. So it's so much fun to see all of these people get to know each other and learn from each other and enjoy.
You know, it's interesting. That's what David and I thought about when we wrote the book, that the book wasn't really for savvy cabaret people. It was for someone in Iowa who has great talented students, but they don't have the access to send them to New York to audition or whatever. Why not just get a church basement, get a restaurant, find some place that's willing to promote music and use that opportunity to teach your students this beautiful genre of one-on-one performance and stuff. So I applaud you for thinking outside of the box with that, you know, and giving your students some place to actually perform after you've taught them what you want them to learn. You know, then what? Then what do we do? So you're about 3.5 hours away from New York City? Is
Yes.
that true?
In New England. Yes.
New England. Okay. New England. So you say supper.
Supper,
Supper
supper
and
and
pajamas instead of pajamas.
lobster rolls and park the car in
Lobsters.
Harvard Yard and all
I'm
that.
from
Yeah.
Connecticut, so I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. I grew up in Ohio, so this is very weird. And they think I sound weird. So.
Yeah. My friend, it's funny, my friend in Alaska used to say that I had a New York accent. And I'm like, I have no discernible New York accent. If anything, I have the New England flat A. But other than that, at any rate, so I was going to ask you, being 3.5 hours away, you come into town as a new kid on the block. How are you promoting? Who are you accessing? What are you doing for other people who may be watching this who are out of town? How are you getting your audiences into the room? What are you doing?
I think it's good that I'm a little bit older than 20 because I don't get to feel defeated as much as I would if I was starting this young, perhaps. I'm doing everything I can think of. I read the book, absolutely. So you want to sing Cabaret by Sue and David. I looked
Thanks for
at
the plug.
absolutely shameless plug. I did everything I could read online about how to promote because that is something that we don't often talk about in the conferences and
Right.
things. They're designed to they evangelize, they're in sales, not management, right?
Right.
So they get you hot and bothered about it, but then they don't tell you how to draw an audience. It's a whole other set of skills, right? And so I have a few friends who are active in social media who also gave me a lot of advice. And I did a lot of this work on behalf of a lot of other people, but not for myself.
Mhm.
It feels really weird to do it for yourself.
It does indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're overwhelming people. I still get that feeling, but now I just tell myself, it's just like brand, right? Just take
It's
it every
branding.
day and do it. Yeah, brand and branding, kind of the same thing. They're both good for you. And you have to do it and realizing that nobody's really paying attention to a lot of what I'm saying until at least 7 times or 10 times or more. So I just tell myself every day, okay, you did it for the 5th time today. Okay, 2 days later, now it's the 7th time. Okay, now they'll pay attention. Okay, now it's the 9th time. And that's how you do it. You do it over and over. And I'm surprised always when people say, you have a show? I didn't know.
Yes.
Where have you been?
Well, that's how Facebook, let's face it, our age group, you're younger than I am, but our age group still uses Facebook. We're not the Twitter people, the youngins do the Twitter thing. Instagram works. I think if you have a presence on Instagram, LinkedIn works if you have a presence on LinkedIn. And then of course, Facebook is really kind of like the be all and end all for those of us trying to promote shows. But those things go by. And unless you and I constantly interact, I might not see yours. It might scoot by me in a time where I'm not on, or I don't know. It's a hard thing to rely on, but the events page at least brings your events up if you create an events page on Facebook. I would further say, and you and I've discussed this privately, that diversifying how you promote yourself. So it's not, here's my postcard week 1, here's a clip of me singing with my postcard week 2, here's a clip of me singing and my postcard and a review, but kind of keep building it up. When I do group shows and stuff, I always save a big name as a ta-da closer to the event that might pull in more bodies and stuff like that. But it's really hard for all of us. I play out of town too, and I have that same thing. Do you also go to when I did London and when I did Delaware, I went to Facebook and looked up groups in those areas. Do you try to find those as well, or have they
I
been
absolutely
successful?
do. Somewhat. I mean, I've done con artists, I think 19 times so far over the past 2 years. And I think my 5th or 6th show was in Chicago at Davenport's.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a few friends in Chicago, but I realized that I needed to do a lot of work in order to get people to come to that show. So I joined the local cabaret organization, Chicago Cabaret Professionals, and I leaned on a few friends to ask me to introduce me to more people who might want to attend. And all of that helped. And I posted consistently in those groups. I made a lot of assets just for Chicago. So that way they didn't feel like I was, a carpetbagger kind of coming in, but they knew I was actually paying attention. I also had a live stream show for 2 years and I had Chicago artists on my show. So that way it would track back to there. Yeah. And I offered help. So if any Chicago artist saw what I was doing, like, how are you doing that? I gave advice and I tried to be of use to them and to be supportive of what they were already doing. And I think that's the biggest message. If you want to perform somewhere else, you need to be helpful to those people.
Absolutely.
And give them as much help as you can, offer it. Would you like me to promote your gig even back here? What can I do to let people know that your theater exists even where I am?
Right.
Or can I help you write copy? Can I send you, photographs? What can I do to support your own business where you are, even from where I am? There's
Yeah,
quite a
I
lot you
think
can do.
what you just said about making it interactive. When I did London, I didn't really know many people, but I joined those groups and I didn't just post my thing. I made sure I go on the group, as you just said, and just make a comment on somebody asked a question. I would make a comment on it or something like that, because then it just doesn't look like you're using the moment and everything, and that you've humanized who you are, and people will see that and say, I think it's all about whether, I mean, people will come in if they don't know you, if they think they like you, if they think that you're a nice person. And
Mhm.
then if you post something that indicates that you also have a nice voice, that would be for me, oh, I'll go see them. They look like they're nice and I like their voice. There you
Mhm.
go, in a story,
You work every connection you have, you make it personal. I mean, cabaret is the personal art. So make it personal. And don't consider it work. Consider
Right.
it, this is a chance to make new friends. So I feel like I have friends in a whole bunch of other places now, which is really fun. And so I'm less worried about it now. I still have to do that with every town I'm considering. I have to do that work. And I'm trying to think of it, this is a very long game that I am playing. And I have a show that can move with me.
Right.
So I purposely wrote a show that would be
It's a
portable that I
commercial
could
show.
take.
I don't want to call it that because it sounds, but it is. It has legs. It can go someplace because everybody knows who Madeline Kahn was, so that's awesome.
It's true. Although I run into people who do say who,
Well,
and yeah,
Julie Wilson, we think everybody knows Julie Wilson, but when I did my Julie Wilson show, there were a couple people that came in and they said, I didn't know who this lady was, but I feel like I know who she is now. And that's our job too, right?
that's our job.
We've now
Yeah.
introduced them to, if they go home and Google Madeline, you've done your job. If they've left there knowing something that they didn't know before, good on you. It's a risk because if you're going to do it someplace where you don't think they know the artist, like I can't really travel with the Julie show so much unless it's one of the places that are savvy to her brilliance, but she was mostly a New York and theater person. So that's a specific market there. So let me ask you, I end everybody's interview by asking them for a piece of advice that a mentor or friend gave them, either professionally or personally, that stuck with them, that they sometimes find themselves giving to, in your case, your students or something. Is there something that sticks out to you as a piece of advice that you've cherished?
It's okay to be yourself.
Wow.
It's we get that trained out of us sometimes, and not only in classical music but in life.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about cabaret is that I am forced to be myself. And piano bar, I think, is the same for me. And for such a long time, I hid behind my students or I hid behind roles, but yet I was always happy with how they turned out, but dissatisfied from myself.
Right.
So cabaret is the first time where I've really felt I can be myself on stage and it's okay. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a really challenging thing. But I'm at the point in life where I really must have that in order to feel, satisfied.
That's awesome. In today's day and age too, theater is trying to catch up with equity all across the board. And I think as educators and as teachers working with students who are challenged with non-binary issues, how to sing when there's, gender changes and stuff like that. It's an amazing thing that NATS, our association, is really addressing these days, and to be a part of that world where you can say it's okay to be who you are, that is such good advice, because it takes on a whole bigger picture these days as teachers and everything. But yeah, for stage especially. Eden, it's been really, really nice just to kind of hang with you a little bit and get to know you a little bit better. I hope you all come to see her shows. I will have that postcard posted underneath this video interview. I'll see you at one of them. I don't know which one yet, depends on the boot situation, but I can't wait to see the show. Congratulations on the MAC nod and for getting yourself on the map in a debut category. That's pretty big. So I wish you a lot of luck with this project, and we'll see you all the next time, but hopefully at one of her shows. Okay. Thank you for being with us, Eden. Have a great
Thank you
day.
all. Thanks.